a few people ask me how I move my final sketch to a final surface, whether it's canvas or a canvas board, a wood panel, or just a clean sheet of paper. I have 3 transfer methods I'm going to show you today on 3 different surfaces. They're pretty straightforward and they're pretty easy. There may be a few items that I'm using today that you aren't going to have on hand, so check the description below for links to those items. To get started, we're going to need an image to transfer. To keep things simple, I'm just going to use this little gingerbread man that I took from another project that I'm currently working on. Now that I have my image, I like to photocopy it before I get started. You'll see why in a bit. Now let's jump into the first method that uses carbon paper. As for supplies, we need the image we're transferring. We'll need a surface to transfer the image to. For this one, I'm using canvas. We'll need a sheet of carbon or transfer paper. We need tape. I'm using washi tape, but anything that'll stick to your surface will work. We need a pen or pencil for tracing, and a pair of scissors. Even though I'm using stretched canvas, this transfer method can be used on a wide variety of surfaces. It'll work on canvas, canvas board, wood panels, paper. Personally, I haven't found a surface yet that it doesn't work well on. To start, I'm going to take the carbon paper and I'm going to cut it down to fit the face of the canvas. With carbon paper, there is a clear front and back. The back is kind of flat and dull, and the front is black and shiny. We're going to place the front of the carbon paper, the black shiny side, down onto the surface of the canvas. Then we're going to tape it down to secure it in place. Next, we're going to take our image, place it down on top of the carbon paper, and we're going to tape it down as well. The last thing we want is the image and the carbon paper sliding around while we're trying to transfer. With the image and carbon paper secure, we're going to take our pen or pencil and trace over the entire image. You want to press down just hard enough for the carbon to transfer from the carbon paper to the canvas surface. Obviously, you can use a pen, you can use a pencil. I've even seen some people use the ball tools to trace the image, but I like using a pen because it makes it a little easier to see which parts I've already traced and which parts I've missed. Once we're done tracing, we can pull up the tape, image, and carbon paper. Our little gingerbread man is now on the canvas. And with all the transfer methods I'm going to show you, if the transfer looks faint or a little messy, I'll usually go in with a pencil to darken and clean up if needed. And there we go. Our first transfer using carbon paper is done. As you can see, it is super easy. I have found carbon paper at Michael's, but it is so much cheaper on Amazon. I left a link below in case you'd like to check it out. Now let's jump into the second method, which uses a graphite stick. This is the method that I use the most, and it is the reason why I started photocopying my work to transfer. For supplies with the second method, we need the image we're transferring. We need a surface. This time I'm using a wood panel. We need tape, a graphite stick, a pen or pencil, a kneaded eraser, and since this is the messiest of the 3 methods, we need something to protect our tabletop. For this, I'm going to use some packing paper. I'm going to start by putting down the packing paper. Now we need our image and the graphite stick. These sticks you can find at just about any art shop or on Amazon. They're a pretty common art supply. Just be aware that they are insanely messy and chances are it will get everywhere. So now we're going to flip our image over and we're going to just cover the back with graphite. Now you can see why I started making photocopies of my work to use for transfers. This photocopy will be good for absolutely nothing but the trash by the time we're done. Once we have a good solid layer down, we'll give the image a little shake to get rid of all the loose graphite. Then we'll get rid of the mess by trashing the packing paper. Now we're going to take our wood panel, we're going to grab our image, and we're going to take the side we covered in graphite, placing it down onto the surface of our panel. Next, we're going to tape the image in place. Again, we don't want it sliding around as we transfer. Then we're going to take our pen or pencil, and just like the last method, we're going to trace over the entire image. With this transfer method, we've basically just made our own carbon paper. And like the last method, it works on a large variety of surfaces. Once the tracing's done, we pull up the tape, and pull back the image to now find our little gingerbread man transferred onto the wood panel. As I said, this method is messy, so a lot of times I'll use a kneaded eraser to clean up the stray patches or particles of graphite, and I'll also roll the eraser over the transferred image to lighten it. I do this because this transfer method actually leaves behind too much graphite. So if you don't clean it up, or let's say you don't lighten the image and you decide you're going to use paint on your final piece, that extra graphite can get pulled into your paint and it'll leave your paint looking kind of dull and muddy. Unfortunately, I learned this the hard way, so you're welcome. Hopefully I will have helped you avoid it. Also, if you're working on a dark surface, you can still use this method. Just swap out the graphite stick for a white charcoal stick. Now let's jump to the final method. For the third and final transfer method, we are going to need our image, a light pad, a clean sheet of paper for your final surface, tape, and a pencil. We won't be going with a pen this time. You'll see why in a second. First, we're going to get our light pad set up. Next, we're going to take our image, place it in the center of the pad, and tape it down. Then we'll turn on the light pad. Next, we'll take our final surface, our clean sheet of paper, and we'll place that on top of our taped down image. I like to turn on the light pad before doing this so I can see through my final paper. It makes it a lot easier to line up or figure out how I want my image placed on my final surface. Once I'm happy with its placement, tape will be used to secure it in place. Then we'll grab our pencil and we will trace over the image we see through the paper. That's why I went with pencil this time. With the other two methods, I traced over my image, transferring it onto my final surfaces. This time, I'm tracing or copying the image directly onto my final surface. If it needs any fixes or touch-ups, pen would not allow me to do that. Once we're done tracing, we will pull up the tape. And there we have it. Our little gingerbread man is now transferred to its final surface. This last method with light pad is great for paper, but clearly it's limited when it comes to working with other surfaces. It's not going to work on wood panels, it's not going to work on canvas board, it's not going to work on any solid surface. I do remember when I was in high school, way back when, we had this massive light table. It was insanely bright and we were able to use it to transfer our work onto canvas, but this light pad just is not bright enough. So when it comes to what works best on most surfaces, I would suggest method 1 or method 2. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again to bug you soon.